Hi, travelers. Tara here. I hope everyone is doing well as can possibly be expected during this time. I hope that all of you are putting in your social distancing practices, that you are sticking to it. I know for some of you it can be very, very difficult and you feel very isolated and very alone, but try to reach out to people. You can do FaceTime, texting, emails, phone calls. Interestingly enough, this energy, having to isolate myself, is really nothing. This is a normal thing for me. I'm very much of a loner, but I know that some of you are more social than others. I understand that some of you are not working. Uh, that everything is on hold. We are at the end of the month, coming to the first of the month. Everybody's bills are due. Hold on, somebody's calling me and I don't know why. One second. Hold on, let me pause this. Sorry about that. I know that many of you might be frightened, very worried, not sleeping at night. Um, just know that I don't know if you ever think back to sometimes when I'm reading uh, cards to you or I'm talking to you about astrology, when I tell you that you have to remember that no matter what's in your birth chart, uh, as we move through life, everybody on earth is under the same transits. And the other thing that I've been telling you is you want to pay attention to when the big outer planets make moves. It's not the personal planets. Those things affect you personally on an everyday level. So when you're looking at the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, when you're looking at those big Uranus, those big outer planets making moves, this is huge stuff. So I went back because somebody just sent me a video and asked me what I thought of it. And it was someone who does Vedic astrology, and they were discussing their predictions about, the different planets and the configurations that they're making. And then they were giving some kind of medical advice, trying to tell you how you can best fight the virus. I don't know anything about Vedic astrology. That's the first thing I'm going to say. And I'm also going to say that I know that Vedic medicines and the practice of, I think it's called Ayurvedic, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, has merit. But what I will tell you is to please consider the source. No one is immune from this virus. The old can get it, the very young can get it, those in between, those with underlying health conditions, those who are extremely healthy, females, males. Please, astrologers are astrologers. And that's not to say that they are not accurate in their predictions. Some of them are quite accurate. But nevertheless, that person is an astrologer. That person is not a medical doctor or a virologist or an epidemiologist. So I'm going to ask you to please consider the source of where you are getting your information from. If people are telling you to take this, try that, do this, do that, I want you to be extremely careful because you could also end up injuring yourself. Um, the safest way so far to kind of limit your exposure is to distance yourself from people because you don't know who has it and who doesn't. People can be asymptomatic, not show any signs whatsoever, but can be highly contagious for 2 weeks before they start to show symptoms. Um, this is some serious shit. And so I want you to, again, consider the source. If people are telling you to do this, do that, fumigate yourself, do this, do that, consider the source. If you are not receiving scientific, data-based information on what you should or should not be doing, or the best way to safeguard yourself to the best of your ability, then don't do it. That is my advice to you. Of course, you are free to do whatever you choose to do. You are free to believe whomever you choose to believe. But I do ask you to take some caution and to think that if it was that easy to fumigate yourself with some this, some that, or the other, that damn it, the doctors would be telling you to do that, right? In other words, we'd be finding a way to mitigate what's happening here. So please consider the source. And what I have done is, I don't know if I've been busy. The reason why you haven't heard from me is I've had a lot of people now coming to me here in my neighborhood with their, want their charts read. So I'm doing it, over the phone or, across a room. I have a lot of people that are calling me and we're doing things over the phone. And people want to know, what's happening. And I get that. But I was going back, I'm sitting down, I'm taking classes now to become a sun sign astrologer, learning how to do more forecasting because I want to be more accurate at this. And so that's why you haven't heard from me. I've been actually taking classes, and what I did was I went back and I kind of took a look. The most amazing thing that everybody's been talking about is the great Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. And I've been explaining to you it happens every 2 years, but it also happens across different elements. Okay, and so the next one that's coming up is going to be in, I think it's Aquarius. And so I went back, and in terms of looking at plagues or pandemics, the very first recorded event of the bubonic plague started in China in 2024. And what was interesting to me was that during that time frame, we had Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Scorpio, and we had Uranus and Neptune in Cancer. Now, because those planets interact with each other, you know, but what's interesting is that all of those were water signs. So we had a great conjunction across a water sign, the water element, okay? Then the next largest one that we had was the bubonic plague, which lasted from 1347 to 1352. And what I found to be interesting about that is we had Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto all in the sign of Aries, right? And then we had, let's see, one, two, three. Yes, in Aries. Saturn was in Pisces and Neptune was in Aquarius. So you could say that we had a conjunction across a fire sign. That was from 1347. Then in 1351 to 1352, which is when the bubonic plague started to fall off, we had Saturn and Uranus in Taurus in 1351. And then in 1352, near the end, we had Saturn, Uranus, and the North Node all in Taurus. So that's an earth sign. So what is coming up now is this conjunctions across an air sign, Aquarius. This is every 800 years that these kinds of things happen. And so that's why I tell you to pay attention to the big planets when they make moves. That means that everybody on Earth is going to be affected. This goes back to that saying that you always hear me say, if it is not you being directly affected, it's going to be somebody that you know through 6 degrees of separation. You're going to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? But literally everyone around the world is going through the same thing at the same time, right? And so I'm going to take a look for you. Before I get started, I'm going to just tell you that we are on for the webinar, which is April 4th. That holds, I got all of my PowerPoint things together. I got my documents back together. So that still holds true. You should be getting another invitation pretty soon. If not, I'll just go ahead and send out a reminder. What do you call it? Newsletter. Lastly, I have not done any of the readings for April. What I'm going to do is post up only 12, and these are going to be general readings. I understand that some of you may be kind of going through the shit in maybe a personal relationship, but I think right now, this is the kind of event, and you are living through history. This is going to define the times for us for many years, if not hundreds of years to come. And so I think it is important that I bring you, as best that I can, information that you're going to be able to use. because when one area is affected, we know that other areas are affected. It all goes together. You can't look at one thing exclusive from the rest of your life because it's all combined. Okay. What I think I find the most interesting is the idea that Saturn has already moved into Aquarius. Saturn brings about limitations, constraints, restrictions, and in the sign of Aquarius, this is about your networks, your groups, your friends. So here we have the fear of networking. We are not able, we are being forced, so to speak, to limit our exposure to other people. But also the interesting flip side of that is Aquarius is the sign of brotherhood and sisterhood. And what that means is that we're all in this boat together, right? So for the sake of humanity, okay, and everybody else, um, who is susceptible, and we all are. Everybody on earth is susceptible to this virus. We do not have an immunity to it. Okay? So for the sake of humanity and mankind, we're being asked to limit our networking, our social, our groups, those people that we get down with, that understand us. We're being asked to limit our interaction with them. But this is for the greater good of mankind, right? And so that's how I use astrology. It doesn't mean that you're not going to, and I'm going to be honest, we're going to be in this for it's going to be a while. I don't think that we're going to see any real break until after the end of the year. This is what will be, I think, when Jupiter moves into Capricorn, okay? And that can go either way. All right. And we're going to be in this for a while. And so I would look this to look out by the end of December 2020, going into January 2021, there may be some kind of break. Okay. And so this is going to require you to think outside the box. And that's what Saturn does. Saturn comes in and he tests you. He makes life hard. He makes it difficult for you. He makes it seem as if there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm here to tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You're just going to have to hunker down, roll up your sleeves, and be willing to do the hard work. And if that means, you can't go outside your damn house except do nothing but take a walk your dog, and go to the grocery store and to the pharmacy, then that's what your ass need to do. Right? And then everything else, you're going to have to figure out a way to do it. I don't think anything is impossible. I just think it's a bit difficult. Okay. And so with that said, I'm going to, we're going to be using the Lost Tarot of Nostradamus. I have not pulled these cards out since I got them. We're going to be clarifying with a Golden Oracle Nostradamus card. I don't know what the hell is going on, if it's me or if it's my thing. I can't tell. I'm trying to see if I can. Well, hell, you'll be able to see it. So anyway, I'm going to have to read to you from the book. These cards are, this deck is huge. It has the same number of cards as any other deck. It's a huge deck. And let's just get started. So those of you, listen, I don't know, website members, those of you who, was it a month and a half ago, I put up a code for you to get, to use for a 1 month free. And I don't know why I did that, but that code, and I think it's still there if you'll go to the message section or something like that. It's still there, or I told you to write it down. I don't know why I did it when I did it, but if you want to come back in and right now you're strapped for cash, you can use that code and come back in. All right, that way you're going to get access to the webinar, okay, and all of the readings. So, that was kind of an intuitive thing. That was a get a month free, and so if you need to use that code, I urge you to please go ahead and use it. That's why I put it there. All right. All right, let's lay the cards. And let's see what Nostradamus may have to impart. I think we all could use some If not good news, some comforting news. Yeah. This too shall pass, people. It shall. It will not be easy, but it will pass. I've been doing things like shopping for my elderly neighbor. Um, you know, checking on her, doing things for her because she's terrified to come out of her house, you know? So, she's there all by herself, her lonesome. Her kids were supposed to come, but guess what? Can't nobody travel. Remember that Mercury in retrograde when I tell you that the shit, you know, how it can affect you? Look at what happened. Isn't that funny? We have the astronomer. 10, 11, 12, 13. I don't know what number that is. I don't know if that's a death card. Could be. I'll have to see. That's the astronomer. I think that is the death card. This is the, no, she's not. That's the spheres. She is the queen of, I'm sorry, coins. Here we have the queen of wands. I think it's the numbers that throw me at the bottom, the Roman numerals. So I have two queens face to face. And then I have the sun. With that Wheel of Fortune and the Leo there. But this is something else because this says astronomer. So I'm going to have to look that up in the book. Here is the Page of Wands. I would think this is the Page of Coins. Okay, this is called the Apprentice, which kind of throws me off with these these are named, but these are, you know, the lady, the page, makes sense that way. The Strength card. There's our bull. This is a Cups card, the Ten of Cups. What threw me was that tower thing there. I think this is the King of Cups. I'm going to double check that for you. And then it is the Seven of Coins. Underneath it, we have the High Priestess, the Papess. So first thing I want to do is double check on these cards because it's kind of odd the way that they've come out. These are the spheres. That's exactly what it's saying to me. Ah, isn't that funny? Hold on one second. Yes, the Queen, the Page, and the Master. Then he must be, I wonder if he is a, hold on. I'm looking in the wrong, the Master. Yes, he would be the King of Cups with the Ten of Cups. Yes, so this is the Queen of Coins. This is the Page of Coins. This is the Ten of Cups. This is the King of Cups. Okay? And right in the center, I have the Apprentice of Spheres. A page. I have 2 pages and 2 queens. That's interesting. Well, the central function of their aspect. This person is a negotiator. It says, if you are an employer, the apprentice is your ideal associate. This speaks to careful, attentive. This person is careful, attentive, and always ready to listen and learn. If you are a student, this card strengthens any position you hold in the issue you are addressing. The keywords are student, apprentice, disciple, concentration, speculator, trader, and negotiator. Across here with the wands and the strength card. It says that this person's loyalty is unfaltering and their devotion to the work they undertake complete. The apprentice is, as with any other page, liable to commit to a particular discipline and follow it with single-minded intent. It says that here, he is tending the tree of wisdom and knowledge, copying what he has learned onto a scroll that grows from its branches. Isn't that interesting? Let's look at this Queen of Spheres. The astronomer. The earliest known woman to practice a scientific discipline. She is sometimes credited with the invention of the first astrolabe and is regarded as one of the most forward-looking thinkers of her time. Inevitably, this drew her to the attention of the early Christian sect. In the end, denounced by the Bishop of Alexandria, she was dragged naked through the streets, flayed alive, and burned. Damn. It says that she can be a powerful champion or a difficult partner depending on the circumstances. She is at times seen as the aspect of an inner personality which likes to be generous and supportive in all walks of life, whether it be throwing an extravagant party or looking after a patient in a hospital. As a wife or mother, this queen wants only the best for her partner or her children, which may make her overprotective. The key words are bold, a bold, noble-hearted woman, generosity, confidence, self-assurance, sincerity, prosperousness, and liberal-mindedness. Now, 2 queens can sometimes mean gossip is mean, but this could also be the 2 aspects of yourself right now. Okay? And if I had to worry about anything, it would be this card, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. We're going to now look at the Queen of Wands, or known as the Lady of Suns. Well, this is Lucretia Borgia. Many today will know her only as an infamous poisoner whose ruthlessness became a byword in her time. However, there's a great deal more to her than this. She was a pawn in the policies of her father Rodrigo, who became Pope Alexander, and her brother Cesare. Lucretia was known as one of the great beauties of her time, married 3 times to a succession of noble princesses, all for political gain rather than love, and gave birth to 8 children. This is a powerful leader, a striking-looking person who may have a strong theatrical aspect. If you encounter her, you may find yourself being carried along on her tide of energy, knowledge, and business acumen. She may also touch your heart with wonder. The card represents feminine charm, sweetness, business acumen, a sympathetic companion, and a consort. And here with the sun. But now we have to remember that the sun also illuminates things, yes? This card signifies happiness, contentment, and joy abounded. It signifies health, wealth, and a joyous acceptance of good things which rain down upon you, like the drops of radiant dew. It says, if you are engaged in any work, you are likely to be at the center of attention and others will gravitate. Your general optimism inspires those around you and who enabling you to lighten even the darkest moments. It says, in difficult situations, the sun's light is always available to you, enabling you to perceive the true state of affairs and to act accordingly. The upright card is enlightenment, happiness, contentment, unbounded joy, health, triumph, material fortune, friendship, marriage, and success. It says the philosophy of this card rules over science in a future time. Let's look at the Page of Wands, shall we? I think that if some of you are wondering, you know, like I always tell you, you can't always stop living life because something is happening, right? But what you can do is, again, try to think outside the box. Interesting. It is often seen as the card of the follower. It says that this can be the fan who echoes the skill or knowledge of the person they admire without actually embodying it. You may find yourself in the presence of someone who speaks with great brilliance, or you may be such a person yourself. But behind the honeyed words may lie a youthful uncertainty. An extraordinary person, surprise, a stranger, a prodigy, faithfulness, an emissary, and marvelousness. Now, 2 queens and 2 pages. And what I find to be interesting is this page has been sent out by this queen. And this page represents this queen. But right now, this Queen of Coins is sending out a different message from this one. So I'm not exactly sure if this is the idea that somebody's going to maybe enter into the picture and perhaps to offer you some other type of opportunity to do whatever you need to do during this very odd time frame. Here we have the Fortitude card, the card of strength. This is about the strength to keep going when everything looks hopeless. But unlike the Chariot card, it has less to do with the ego than with physical power. It is described as the warrior cards, but this limits its scope. Strength of will transcends the bounds of human ability and all the countless tales of heroic achievement. It says, this, when it shows up in a reading, it signifies your eagerness to attack the problem and indicates a strong resource of strength across the board. You may also be required to tame the forces within you that seek to meet every opposition in a combative way. Strength held in check remains a reserve which you can tap into, if it doesn't require you to attack every problem at full stretch. Sometimes you may need to turn to a powerful friend or guide to help usher in the moment of truth, which must be faced without fear. Strength, force, courage, power, ability, authority, and commanding presence. To me, it just speaks about overcoming something, but I can't quite figure out what the underlying thing is the Ten of Cups. Now this is interesting. Remember I told you that the first thing that caught my eye was the Tower there. It says the tree, here is the quatrain. The tree which has so long been dried up and dead, and one night will become verdant again. The imagery here is of a tower, perhaps the one shown in the Burning Tower of the Major Arcana. The suggestion is that even such an apparently solid and four-square edifice may still be brought down. But on closer examination, it is notable that both the door and windows are blocked, implying that the outer show of strength may hide a darker reality, that this great building may actually be a prison. Isn't that funny? It may regard your, you may regard your dwelling, your city, town, or village as the center of the universe, and those who live within it as your tribe. Your dreams find a home here too, and you are borne up by waves of delight, passion, and contentment. But you should be careful of becoming overwhelmed, or your ego inflated by the attentions of others. It represents home, country, public honor, welfare, security, contentment, and people. But isn't that funny that it speaks to this idea of the fact that we're blocked in, and while there is security there, and maybe we can find refuge there, yeah, okay, that in actuality it's become like a prison to us. The same energy that I know a lot of people are going through. Oh my God, I'm going stir crazy and my being locked up, right? The very thing that protects you is also the very thing that can bring you down. And I mean this about the virus. The only way that we can be certain to kind of protect ourselves is to stay isolated. But by the same token, that very isolation prevents us from building up an immunity to ourselves. So the very thing that protects us and that imprisons us is also the very thing that can bring us down and kill us. Wow, I think Nostradamus is quite interesting. The King of Moons, the Master of Moons, represents Paraclesis. He is considered, I want you to listen, a philosopher, a chemist, a revolutionary medical practitioner. He is considered to be the founder of modern pharmacopoeia, and therefore of countless natural remedies. In the way he treated his patients, he was undoubtedly far ahead of anyone else at the time, and his books and lectures thrilled and shocked a generation. Though there is no evidence to suggest that he ever met Nostradamus, there is no doubt that his work as a doctor was powerfully influenced by Nostradamus' approach to healing. Like Nostradamus, he was in and out of favor with the courts of Europe, occasionally being forced to flee. As king or master of moons, he represents honesty and integrity, fair dealing, and a kindly nature. I think what is interesting is that he is showing up as a papal figure, but he has removed his triple crown, and he is covering those sheep with that crown. As a person, this person is generous, talented, compassionate, and a brilliant man, larger than life, and overwhelmingly filled with confidence. He can be an artist, a banker, a priest, or a doctor whom one trusts with one's life. At a basic level, he represents the kind of person who inspires others, offering sympathy and generosity to all. As head of a family, he will always offer nurture and care, but may possibly be unwilling or unable to share emotional bonds. The key words are honesty, integrity, kindness, equality, a scientist, and an artist. I think what is interesting is the quatrain that goes with this, or the couplet. The augur and the chief will put forth their hands to the king, and from the king will come a peaceful emperor. I don't know if this is telling us that at some point There's going to be a male figure who enters into the picture who, if not has the answer, maybe someone who can point the way. And the reason why I say that is above his head, there's this whole depiction of the earth, all of the countries of the world. I don't know. We will now look at the Seven of Spheres. And this is the card that kind of doesn't sit right with me. The quatrain. Treasure rediscovered gives offense to all, and within two places near the basilica. What has been prepared or worked for comes to fruition when efforts are blessed by divine grace. The image suggests two people discussing spiritual or secular knowledge. Wisdom they will hopefully put to the best possible use, but there is also a threat of conflict, either between the two people or within you. This is represented by a third figure who crouches beside them and looks back over one shoulder as if seeking wisdom from someplace else. The interpretation of the card. On the one hand, while this card is all about gain, money, profit, or wealth, but on the other, it carries a sense of things getting in the way, of slowing down, or of getting nowhere. The older meaning suggests that this has to do with taking a break, or purging yourself of the clutter in your life or things no longer needed. Excuse me. Take care not to be too much of a perfectionist, as such an approach can limit progress. The key words are reward for good work, money, wealth, profit, but also purification. Can you see that? And so this is the card that kind of stands out for me. Over this whole reading is the Papist or the High Priestess. It says, as while she represents feminine wisdom and mysteries and a sensitive approach to problems, she is by no means a gentle, sweet-natured woman. Her power is undoubted, and her strength of the deepest and most profound kind. She is, in some ways, the feminine power that men will flee from, unable to deal with this strength and purity, which far outstrips their own intellectual pursuits. Her presence often indicates a strong and powerful woman whose advice may well be important, but whose influence can be overwhelming. Now, what's interesting is that the card speaks to wisdom, the subconscious, intuition, depth, teaching, willfulness, modesty, the sacred, fertility of imagination, and the natural world. The quatrain is when the great queen enters the depths, she renders the place powerful and inaccessible. The reference is to the loss of the Cinque Port, the five ports or the five doors, during the reign of Mary Tudor, which is interesting because there's a card here that relates to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth and Mary were sisters who battled it out. Mary Tudor was the daughter of Henry VIII by Queen Isabella of Spain. Elizabeth was the daughter of Henry VIII by Anne Boleyn. a Catholic and a Protestant, and there was a battle between the two. Mary had Elizabeth locked into the tower. And this was after Edward, who ascended the throne, Edward the First, died. He was 14. He became king at a very young age. And Mary was his, what's the word? Not proctor. She was the regent. Let me take a look at this. There's something the cards are trying to tell me. Let me go back to the lady of, I know that was like a roundabout, maybe way more information than I needed to give, but I'm just trying to see if I follow the story in a way, is it going to bring up some more information for me? So about the two sisters. Ah, no, she was Lucretia Borgia. That's right. Who represented Elizabeth? Somebody did. It wasn't her. It was the Sun card, if I am not mistaken. No, the Fortitude card, the Strength card. The cards are trying to tell me something. Yes, the Quatrain. The female bastard to so high a place ascends. The late return will make the sad ones glad. This is speaking to the ascension of Queen Elizabeth I, who is sitting over Mary Tudor. The Papists. Yes, Mary Tudor. When the queen, the great queen, enters the depths, she renders the place powerful and inaccessible. I am going to look at this card and what I think the cards are trying to tell me in a roundabout way is that perhaps for some of you, as you move through this, you are going to perhaps meet someone who is a flatterer, but also someone who may try to trip you up. I think you're going to figure a way through this, but you may have someone who's going to kind of trip you up or wishes to trip you up. I don't understand about this guy. Riunione, the Prigione reversed, the Bambino reversed. So some kind of meeting, but the meeting kind of frees you. The Prigione reversed. If I had to pick another card, it would be this page. The Page of Suns or Wands. The Giovani Fanciulla reversed. The Vedovo. And the Vecchia Signora. Where's my... We will start with the Riunione card. This is a clubs card. Now, basically, it brings about a reconciliation after an argument. Now, this is not necessarily in a romantic relationship, because that's not what I'm getting. But it basically, you could say it's a truce, a meeting someone halfway in any type of relationship. It speaks to a breath of fresh air after a period of instability, giving renewed hope, harmony, and better circumstances. It represents a solution. Neutrally, we're looking at some kind of appointment, a reunion, or a date. This could be speaking that it is may or might take place in a rural area. In financial matters, it can represent a good solution to a problematic situation. But then we have this reversed prigione. And T is the 9 of spades. Where is he? Here he is. It says it is positive as it speaks to the end of a period of suffering or something that has kept you enslaved. It heralds freedom, liberation, and something that will be unblocked. Sometimes it could simply indicate the removal of a blockage, and it does not necessarily mean that happiness will be found. Okay? It speaks about overcoming a negative behavior or character flaw and no longer being enslaved by it. This could be the end of an addiction. It can indicate that punishment has been fully expiated and that karma has been repaid. It can also indicate someone who is a loner, a weirdo, or someone who's extremely introverted and quiet. But it can also indicate delays and setbacks that will prove to be a blessing in disguise. Legal and financial troubles will go away and you'll be able to find a better job. Financially, it still indicates the possibility of being conned or misled and of not being out of the woods yet. If this is about trusting someone, if you question a person's trust and loyalty, this card confirms your doubts and acts as a warning against the person because there's a possibility of being betrayed or swindled. The reversed bambino. And he is the, I think, the ace of diamonds. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. It's a 7, I believe. Yes, he's the 7. It represents something that is not yet ready to be born, a situation that is immature. It lengthens the time frame. It is linked to the idea of delay, slowness, long stretches of time, and all situations that are still in the air and that have not taken concrete form. It can describe painful circumstances. It does so by saying that it is a pain that stings one to the quick and it affects you deeply. In financial matters, it is connected with investments that will take a long time to begin to pay dividends. But it is also connected to anxiety over unclear situations where money is at stake. Now over here, the card of the follower. Remember? The reverse Queen of Wands. Now I know that I feel as though I'm not giving you perhaps what you need to hear, but I think you know what this is. Some of you recognize this story. The reverse young lady, Giovanni Fanciulla. As an individual, the person will represent someone who's younger than 30, usually unmarried. It could be a friend, a colleague, a sister, a relative, okay? But it indicates someone who is troubled in some way. And see how she's pointing to the Vedavo here? Someone who is prey to inner turmoil. Someone who's anxious and suffering mood swings or is depressed. The person is neither consistent in behavior nor in decision making, which is causing instability and precariousness. It describes someone who lacks inner peace and the ability to control one's thoughts and emotions. When it is found at the beginning of a spread, it indicates someone who is surrounded by a difficult situation and you are not making it any better. simply because you don't know how to solve your problems resourcefully. You are unable to think straight. It is a card of worry, inner tension, and a lack of resourcefulness and anxiety. It can represent someone who feels abandoned, weak, apathetic, and now has lost the ability to fight for themselves. Basically, it is someone who's going through a hard time with little support from others. In financial matters, it only heightens it heightens the inexperience, indicating that a situation is not yet ready, or it is not time to invest yet. With the Vendival, the Three of Spades. Wow, and it's followed by the 2. Isn't that interesting? The Vendival. Basically, it speaks to the idea of someone who's overcoming the immediate shock of bereavement and having to pull themselves together. Now, basically, it does represent a man, but basically, the traditional meaning is that of sadness, remorse, and regret, intense loneliness and isolation, a lack of support, someone who has suffered intensely and who has been defeated by hardships and lost all joy of living. It indicates difficulty in interacting with people and warns of difficult times ahead. You will feel utterly alone and helpless, as if someone has pulled the rug out from underneath you. In financial matters, it represents financial loss, a dismissal, a lack of money. Basically, metaphorically, it indicates estrangement, deprivation, absence, a lack of some kind, and moving away from a situation or person. And sometimes when you're like this, it's easy for people to kind of come in, but you want to be rather cautious of that. Here we have the old lady. Now, sometimes it can represent somebody who's 60 and over, but then sometimes this card can just kind of show up when it doesn't necessarily speak about a person. So generally, it's going to represent life experience. It can represent someone who's accepted a situation and is learning how to cope with it. It represents the end of a phase, a waning of some kind, situations that are about to terminate or decline, or something that is losing its hold over you. In financial matters, it can indicate an established business, old projects that flourish. I don't know why she's shown up. Travel, visit. Well, maybe it's speaking to the idea that you are not able to move. But it says that this is the most positive card in the suit of spades. It represents someone who is able to give very sound advice and has a good perspective on the situation. It also represents change, but it foretells of a slow change, of a structural change, or a situation that will solve itself over time. It indicates that time will heal whatever adversity is indicated by the other cards. It can also indicate retirement or the end of a business relationship. Isn't that interesting? think the cards are telling you that, you know, pretty much perhaps the old way of life, you know, will be ending and there will be something new. Right now, times are difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. But if you will focus instead on something positive or try to divert your attention to something that is more constructive, it will not be easy. That you can overcome this situation. It is the 9. And I think this is called the vase. At least I hope it's called the vase. If not, it would be kind of repugnant that it's not. Hold on. Here's my book. Oh, it's called the lilies. This card bears purity, noble sentiments, and reinforces virtue and good luck. That's all it says. You know, I kind of think this is speaking about the Aquarian energy coming in. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this word right, but the quatrain is, if man could see virtue's pulchritude, I don't know, the Pulchritude, pulchritude, with love his heart would soon be imbued. It bears purity, noble sentiments, and reinforces virtue and good luck. That's all the card says. I really think, I'm not going to sit here and promise you, you know, oh, you won't, you know, get the virus, or you're not going to lose somebody to the virus, or you're not going to lose friends, or, you know, you may end up having to get rid of some of your financial things or some of your financial responsibilities. You may have to face the fact that you're never going to be able to go back to work the way that you used to. You may have to find another job. But in a sense, it's like I always tell you, when the tower comes, it comes completely out of the blue, unexpected. And everything that you thought was safe and solid and secure is torn down to the ground, right? But what happens after all of the dust has settled is that there is a clear open ground, right, for you to rebuild again. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know if anything that I'm saying is helping you. Okay, I don't know. But I think that at this point in time, we're going to have to reorder our values, reshift the way that we think, and we're going to have to become a bit more inclusive. And I think it's just the weirdest thing that to be inclusive at this particular moment in time means that we have to separate ourselves. I just find that to be an extraordinary thing. And I think the universe is trying to show us something. I just hope that we are able to see it. And I kind of see it. I see the thread. I feel it. But I can't quite put it into perspective, not even for myself. I mean, look, I'm going through the same thing that you are going through. Okay? And just because I read cards to do astrology, don't mean that I got the damn answers. You know, I'm taking it one step, one day at a time. And that's all you can do. And so with that being said, I hope that this gave you something. I hope you got something out of it. And until next time, stay safe, and namaste.